Okay. Hey everybody. So hitting you here. It's about 8:12 Hong Kong right now AM. We just got some early market news out of Samsung. Pretty big news actually. So this is a big deal if you're investing in this space or you're paying attention to the chip space or the high tech space or really anything in between. Samsung came out and basically said they're 53% jump in Q2 profit, which obviously smashed the estimates they were expecting to hear. One big thing to point out here is that they saw this as a really strong chip pricing and a huge demand, which really helped them lift earnings here. Um, so just some quick numbers on this piece. For the profit revenue ending for the quarter, June 30, they're seeing numbers somewhere around 12.5 trillion won, which is far above an estimate of around 11.3 trillion won. And that's the average from about 20 analysts. So in terms of US dollars, think they ended up doing about 11 billion against an expected 10 billion. They also saw a revenue rise around, and it's an estimate around 19% for the same period from a year earlier, to about 63 trillion won as well. And again, these are a bit preliminary, but these are big results, and we should see some movement in the market due to this piece. We also think that there's just one thing I would call out as well is if you haven't been paying attention to this, there's been a major chip shortage globally. So Samsung obviously put out these kind of numbers. Although it really did smash the estimates, it's also not necessarily too surprising. So it's going to be interesting to see what this does for the stock, which has been somewhat stagnant for a little bit. We know that this is really tied again to DRAM chips, DRAM chips. These are what you typically see within lots of high-end computing devices, the phones, servers, computers, laptops, etc. And there's a 27% increase in this from March quarter. So this is a big deal. This is something to pay attention to. These are the kind of reasons we talk all the time about paying attention to earnings, understanding what is happening, what is likely to happen, what it could do. So this is something to really pay attention to. One thing I want to call out again, and this is an important point, this was only a limited release of data. Later in the month, we'll see a much larger earnings figures coming out, a little bit more detail. We'll get a more of a feel for what's going on. But I thought this was important because we talk about it all the time, that there's a need real time to pay attention to earnings, pay attention to what's happening. Samsung is a huge company. They're involved in everything. Sometimes I talk about supply chain. This right here is supply chain. This is what gets Ford putting vehicles back on the road. This is what keeps Apple putting phones in hands. This is what keeps the market moving from a technology perspective, having chips in the hands of the people who need them, allowing manufacturers to build high-end components that they need. So with that, just quick piece of breaking news that came out a few minutes ago. Make sure you know how you're affected by this. Even if you don't in any way, shape, or form have any kind of exposure to Samsung directly, that overall supply chain, this is always the theme here. What is the supply chain impact to your entire portfolio? Does this mean that now, I want to call this out. This is really big point here. Samsung is seeing a massive increase in profits against those chips. But who's paying more for them? So Samsung blowing out their numbers due to high profit margins, much higher than expected revenue, that's awesome, and it's awesome for them. But who's paying for that in the back end? Is that going to affect margin? Is that going to affect bottom line? Is that going to affect consumer pricing? These are the areas that we don't have enough information yet to start to analyze, but for sure, we should be paying attention to it. We should understand what that impact will be. That's it. Really short one right now. Appreciate it. Any more of these kind of earnings things I hear in the next couple hours, I'll hit it up. But just really important piece of news. I would highly urge you to go out and read about it, find out what happened, find out the impact of those chips on the market and supply chain, and find out where those gaps were. And let's find out together if this is going to be a big dramatic increase from the consumer side as well. So with that, thanks so much for watching. Keep investing, keep trading, keep taking care of yourself. Have a good one.